A new issue has come up in the last few days I want to ask you about. Back in 2003, you were the top prosecutor for Hennepin County in Minnesota, and your office put a 16-year-old boy in prison for life for the shooting of a young girl. You've campaigned on how this shows that you were tough on crime. But just in the last few days, I want to put this up on the screen, a year-long Associated Press investigation has raised new questions about whether that young man was wrongfully convicted. They found police offered cash to potential witnesses and relied on testimony from jailhouse informants who got reduced sentences. Senator, did you know, when you were the prosecutor, did you know about any of that? And should this man's case be reopened?
Well, justice must be done, Chris. And just to put it in some context, this was an 11-year-old girl named Taisha Edwards. She was doing her homework at her kitchen table, and a bullet went through the wall, and she died. And it was a tragic case. It was a big deal within the African-American community. And our focus was on bringing the people to justice and doing justice for her family. So what happened was 3 people were convicted, if I could just finish.
But Senator, I mean, we know, let me just say, we know it was a bad case. The question is whether this young man did it, and this AP investigation indicates that other people who were there said he didn't do it, and that some of the witnesses that were relied on were very questionable. You were the head prosecutor. Did you know? And if you didn't, shouldn't you have known?
There actually were 2 trials in this case, Chris. One was after I had left the office.
But he was convicted in the case when you were the prosecutor.
I know, if I could just answer. My view as someone that has worked with the Innocence Project for years is that if there is new evidence, it must come forward. It must come forward, and it must be considered immediately by the court. The job of a prosecutor is to do justice, and that means to me, convict the guilty, protect the innocent. Do your job without fear of favor.
But Senator, you're not answering my question. Senator, you're not answering my question. Did you know about the fact that there was this questionable evidence that the police were coming up with?
I didn't know about this new evidence. No, I didn't know about this new evidence until I saw this report. I couldn't have. I haven't been in the office for 12 years.
But I was wondering, when you were in the office, did you know about this questionable evidence? The reason I'm asking you is, as I'm sure you well know now, there are a number of African-American groups in Minnesota who are calling for you to suspend your campaign until this is cleared up. And according to national polls, you're below 1% in African-American support. You're not going to win the Democratic nomination if you have such little support from the minority community.
Well, I think what you've seen all across the country is that when people get to know me, I do well. And it's on me. I've got to go out there and get to know people. And in my case, let's look at Iowa. 2 prominent African-American legislators have endorsed me, are out campaigning for me right this weekend. At home, I've always enjoyed and have gotten strong support within the African-American community. I've been a leader on issues with the Somali community in my home state. And it's on me to go across the country and make the case for my agenda.